no way of telling. And Microsoft occasionally offers other governments a chance to study the source code, but they don't actually give a copy of the source code that the other government can recompile. No, they have a special server that one could log in on as a single step. So if Microsoft put in another backdoor, they presumably left it out in that server so as to preserve its secrecy. What does this show us? It shows us that every non-free program that doesn't give you freedom number one demands blind faith from the user, and that this blind faith is never justified by these circumstances. Every non-free program is just trust me software, and you never can. So there are two classes of non-free programs. There are the ones in which we know of malicious features, and the ones in which we don't know of any malicious features. And maybe they don't have any, because there are proprietary software developers that don't put in malicious features. Or maybe they do have malicious features that we are in ignorance of. And there's never a way to tell which. But what about those proprietary software developers that don't implement malicious features? They're human, so they make mistakes. Their code has bugs. And the user of a program without freedom number one is just as helpless facing an accidental bug as she is facing a deliberate malicious feature. If you use a program without freedom number one, you are a prisoner of your software. We, the developers of free software, are human too. So we also make mistakes, and our code also has bugs. Every non-trivial program probably has bugs. The difference is, if you run into a bug in our code, you can fix it. Because you have the source code, and you can change it. We can't make ourselves perfect, but we can, and we do, respect your freedom. However, freedom one is not enough. Freedom one is the freedom to study and change the source code. That is, for you or for a company to do something itself. But this is not enough because there are millions of people who use computers and don't know how to program. So they are not capable of directly exercising freedom number one. But even for us programmers, freedom one is not enough because there's just too much free software. There's too much software and it all ought to be free. So nobody is so smart as to be able to study and personally master all the software that she uses and then personally make all the changes she might want. The only way we can fully take control of our computing is to do it working together, cooperating. And for this we need freedom three, the freedom to contribute to your community, the freedom to distribute copies of your modified versions when you wish. With this freedom, we can cooperate. Suppose there are 1 million users of some free program, a million users that is that want a certain change. There may be others that don't want it, but these million do want it. Well, we can expect there will be a few thousand of them that know how to program. And sooner or later, some of them will make this change and publish their modified version, and all those million users can switch to it. They don't need to know how to program to install that version. And once they've heard everybody else saying, oh, this is so good, we like this feature, and it works well, then they'll do it. And thus they all get the benefit of the 4 freedoms. All the users get the benefits of the 4 freedoms. Every user can directly exercise freedom 0 and freedom 2. The freedom to run the program as you wish, and the freedom to distribute exact copies when you wish. These don't require programming, so everyone can do that. Freedoms 1 and 3, the freedom to study and change the source code and then distribute your modified version if you wish, these entail programming. So any given person can only do these things up to the point where he knows how to program. Of course, that's not a binary thing. Lots of people learn some programming and they can make some code changes, and that's quite useful. Just as there are many people that learn to do some maintenance on their cars, even though they don't have the skill to be a professional mechanic, and that's quite useful. With free software, everyone's encouraged to learn as much as she wants to learn, even if that isn't everything. So freedoms 1 and 3 can only be exercised by any given person to the point where he knows how to program. But when programmers exercise these freedoms and distribute their modified versions, all the users get the benefit of their contributions. So all users need the 4 freedoms. They need everybody to have the 4 freedoms, not just themselves. And the combined result of these 4 freedoms is democracy. Free software develops in a democratic fashion under the control of its users. Everybody gets to participate as much as she wants to. By contrast, a proprietary program's development is under the control of one developer. That developer decides what the program does and imposes that on the users. So the proprietary program is a vehicle to impose the power of that developer on the users. The users decide how free software develops, not by all voting on a decision that then gets imposed on everyone, but rather by all contributing the way they want to. So if a lot of people want progress in this direction, a lot of people will make improvements going in this direction, and so there will be a lot of progress. If only a few people want progress in this direction, occasionally somebody, most likely occasionally someone will make changes, and probably the progress in this direction won't be so fast. And if the users don't want it to go in this direction, it won't. Because if anybody did publish a version that goes in that direction, the users will reject it. Malicious features are essentially impossible in free software because nobody's in a position to impose them. With proprietary software, the developer knows he can impose that malicious feature on the users. Their only recourse is to walk away. And as we can see from the society around us, a situation where there's somebody with a lot of clout who can decide how something works and everybody else only gets to take it or leave it is a situation that gives a lot more power to that one concentrated party. That's why that's a bad way to organize society. That's why we need other democratic methods to give the public at large more control, more clout in these decisions. But with free software, if I tried to put in a malicious feature, somebody else would delete it and publish an improved version which doesn't have the malicious feature. And everyone would switch to that, and my version would die. And I know this in advance. So I wouldn't be tempted, even if I were not ethical, and if my conscience didn't stop me, I would realize I would get away with it. So this is a good thing for keeping people honest, that nobody's in a position of power over anybody else.